Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Men of Ann Arbor podcast, brought to you by the good people at New Amendment. I am Stu Douglas, one of your co-hosts, alongside Nik Stauskas, as always. What's going on, man?
Well, Stu, I reside in the city of Philadelphia, and this city's hurting tonight.
I've been so Michigan basketball, I wasn't even thinking about you during the game. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I actually, I don't know if you saw the videos on social media after they made it to the Super Bowl with all the fans kind of like congregating in the streets.
Yeah.
That's called Broad Street, and I'm like not too far off of there. And so I was worried coming into yesterday, like just the pure havoc that was gonna be caused if they did win. But I was rooting for them. I really did want them to win, but I felt like they got cheated a little bit. I mean, that call at the end of the game, I'm not too sure about that. Like, the fans want to see Hurts get a chance with a minute 30, go the length of the field. Like, that's what the fans want. Give the people what they want.
I didn't check any aftermath, but like Philly, I hope your car wasn't parked in the street, because like that call that you got robbed. And that's one of the worst calls I think I've ever seen in that situation. And then Philly would erupt. I was surprised. I haven't checked anything. Did anything go? Any fires set in the streets?
No, thankfully not. Actually, the best thing that happened to the city last night is it was actually pouring rain. So I feel like that deterred people from gathering outside and I guess just breaking windows, breaking cars. But I'm sure if they won the game, people would have still found a way to get together outside because they really don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, man, it's tough because I feel like the Eagles had such a great season. And even yesterday, I thought they played well. That first half, they played great. And, to have it kind of slip away at the end the way it did, it was frustrating to see as a fan.
I'm sure you've been asked this a million times. Have you ever taken to football? Like, do you like watching it? Do you care about it? Do you bet on it? Do you play fantasy football coming from Canada?
No. So I still don't know that much about. No, yeah. I still don't know that much about the game, to be honest. I like watching it more, but the only two teams that I really like watching are Michigan football and then like the Eagles, because I'm here in Philly.
Yeah.
And my wife's family, they have seasons tickets and they're huge Eagles fans. So, that's kind of by association led me to be a fan. But even, I'm definitely not the guy to go about the nitty gritty, the analytics of what's going on the field and this and that. I know nothing, but I do enjoy watching once in a while.
Listen, here's an inside secret to people, to NFL fandom and football fandom in general, is no one knows what they're talking about. Literally, yeah. I think it's like the hardest game to understand for people, like, because defensive coverages and what you're supposed to do. Like basketball, you can get more of a sense of it even if you've never played. Kind of like, oh yeah, that guy definitely messed up. In football, you have no idea. All you hear about is just all these people with all their opinions. It's nauseating. So you're kind of lucky to not have really grown up with that. Because I'm at this point, I can't. If there's a football conversation, I'm like, we're either talking gambling or fantasy football. Like, get out of here with any analyzing of a game, because I know you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so you're lucky.
Yeah, no, I think it's great though. I personally don't bet on sports, but I do like the concept of how, when you open up the betting, it engages the fan a lot more. I like just seeing the videos on Instagram of people when they miss or hit the parlay with like something crazy happening and just seeing their reaction. Like those are pretty funny. So.
Yeah, it was. We played at Madison Square Garden, and it was the first time I ever experienced drunk fans playing in front of drunk fans. And I think like if you did that, multiply that, or magnetize that with like betting and people yelling at you about bets on the sideline, I don't know. I think it would have been a fun time to play. But that football game was crazy. I can't believe Philly didn't burn down after that. But even more of a rough week for us here, Philly fans and Michigan basketball fans. It was a great win against Nebraska, but the IU game, we're going to talk a lot about the IU game. We'll look forward to some of their games in the future, but we're going to talk a lot of IU today. Just a real tough loss, but let's get into the X's and O's. So it's a big game against IU Saturday at home, 62-61 loss. I'm sure you and me both were on pins and needles, just wanting the win to get over the hump. But I just feel bad for these kids.
I mean, I feel bad for them because they were on the 3-game win streak. We were back to glass half full. We were feeling really good about things. We were encouraged because they were passing the eye test. Like, we were seeing evidence of improvements in so many different areas. And even with this game, they led 34 of the 40 minutes, and they did, up until that last 5 minutes, they did all the right things, it felt like, to win that game. And then, to go scoreless in those last 5 minutes and just have all those empty possessions, it's a killer. When you're going up against a talented team like IU, it's going to be tough to win games like that. So I do feel bad for them, because that was the one they needed. They needed that one. And now it's almost like you need to win every game moving forward. Otherwise you have no shot.
Yeah, no, it's they felt like the better team all game. I mean, you break it down, it's Hood Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis and some guys that defend versus the other team. And I think they messed up quite a few times guarding Trace, whether it was on a roll or a one-on-one. But and honestly, with the ball screen defense. So I want to get into that. I'm going to start out with that, because we'll get into some good stuff later. But why I think they lost the game, I mean, they let Hood Schifino go off, and they were slacking off. They were playing that help me out here. The ball screen defense. You're backing up. Just
drop, like they're in a drop?
Yeah, drop. Jeez, I can never remember that. I'm an idiot. I don't know why, because I hate to play. I never wanted to play it. Drop. They're playing drop coverage on Jalen Hood Schifino, I think, because they're worried about the role with Trace Jackson Davis, which understandable, but it was getting Jalen going early. He was confident with his mid-range jumper because he was wide open. I did not agree with that at all, because this team, I mean, let's look at the stats. Go to the box score. Trace Jackson Davis had 28 points on 23 shots. Hood Schifino had 21 points on 15 shots. Tamari Bates came off the bench and shot 5 in 17 minutes. None of the other starters shot more than 4 shots.
No.
I mean, I understand. I don't understand. I don't fully understand that game plan where it's like, okay, you don't want Trace Jackson Davis to get a lot, so you don't want him to roll. But, like, somebody else help. I don't know. You got to force the ball out. Like, if you're going to you have to at least hedge a little bit on these ball screens, and then have someone help the helper, have someone help Hunter be in. And they did it. They lost Trace a few times on that. But it's like, who else? You got to make other guys beat you. And I know Hood Schifino's been up and down, with his jumper. But when you see it going early on, I just think the adjustments weren't quite there. But they only scored 62 points. It wasn't like IU ran away with it defensively, but it was just like little things here and there I feel like could have been just a little better.
Yeah. Right. No, I agree. Like, the 62 points, I feel like that's very average for a college game. So it didn't really stand out to me that Michigan's defense was terrible in any aspect. I agree. They could have probably made some adjustments in that ball screen defense. Yeah. But I think I saw here in 2-point shooting, I think Michigan was 53% on twos and IU was 45%. So I feel like Michigan won that battle. Yeah. The thing that bothered me, like, it was a couple of times with Jackson Davis, and he surprised me because I haven't really watched him too much, but he surprised me. That little spin out he had a number of different times when he would almost be like faking to run up for a ball screen and then kind of spin out and they throw a lob to him. They got Michigan with that a couple of times for easy buckets, and I'm just those are the ones for me where I'm watching. I'm like, damn, like who that
is? That's Woodson. That's that NBA coaching right there.
That's the NBA coaching.
Yep.
And again, when you have someone athletic like that who you could just throw it to the backboard and they'll go get it, it's a perfect play because it catches the defense off guard. That for me defensively was one of the only things that bothered me. But other than that, I felt like Michigan's defense was overall pretty solid. It was more so just the last 5 minutes of the game, the scoring. I feel like it was 7 or 8 empty possessions on a variety of different actions. Like I wrote a bunch of them down here. And they went to a Jet Howard pin down. They had a couple of Hunter post ups, a turnover by Terrence. I think Doug had one drive getting blocked at the rim.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like they ran some decent actions, but this is just one of those cases where your best players in the last 5 minutes of the game, your best players need to be the ones that are going to carry you, meaning Hunter and Jet probably need to be the guys to step up and make those big plays. And they weren't able to do it. And I can't pinpoint, exactly what it is that went wrong. But it's kind of been the story of their season, hasn't it? It's like, they're great, they're doing well, but like what happened? What where did it slip away from us? This is the 6th or 7th game where we're kind of going through this same thing where it's like, damn, they were right there. They did all the right things all game long and then just let it slip away. So it's definitely frustrating as a fan, and someone that's rooting for them, to watch them go through this. Cause again, it was a missed opportunity, but this is a team that they don't have any more chances for missed opportunities. Like you used up all your chances for missed opportunities earlier in the year. Like these need to be the ones that you're going to close out.
To reinforce my point from earlier, your point was a good one about field goal percentage, but I use guys who missed the shots were all guys not named Trace Jackson Davis and Hood-Schifino. They were 6, 13, 2 for 13, 4 for 15 for the rest of the guys from the field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's an easy thing to say, don't let Hood-Schifino get the ball or shoot it. That's a dumb comment, right? Like that's easier said than done. But to your point, I think it was offensively. They didn't shoot well from 3. Michigan was 5 for 20. No. I don't think they found good looks from 3.
No.
There was a couple of times, Doug shot stuff off the dribble, like stuff that they wanted. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. Miller Kopp played pretty good defense on Jet Howard. He played hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was it's like the difference between like setting a really good screen or just kind of getting in somebody's way. I think there was just a slight lack of execution at the end. That's what happens in a tight game, man. You don't execute quite as early in those first 15 seconds of a play because you're like, okay, don't shoot it in the first 15 seconds. But there were some opportunities, like there was like a semi-break. I don't remember how much time was left. 4 minutes left? Yeah, 4 minutes left. And it was a semi-break, and Miller Kopp was guarding Hunter down low. Mm-hmm. And Doug, they kind of slowly brought it up, but like Doug was there in the wing, a little too far extended and couldn't get it down into Miller Kopp. And Trace Jackson Davis was just kind of lollygagging up the court and finally got the switch that they wanted. And Terrence ended up missing a 3 on it. I mean, they finally got Hunter the ball in the post, but it's like, bam, like you got to take advantage of these things. There was another possession where Hood-Schifino missed a layup. It was a left-hand kind of running layup. Mm-hmm. And he fell out of bounds. And Joey had the ball at the rebound and just held it there for like 3 seconds. Yeah, that's too long. A minute, a second and a half, 2 seconds. It felt like a long time. Then he passed to Doug, and Doug kind of went up. And Jalen was like, it was like 5 seconds before Jalen could get back in front of Doug or the ball handler, but like they didn't even try to attack on that. And that's like that end of game. Hey, let's bring it down. Let's play control basketball. And I don't blame them for it, right? Those are those nerves talking. But damn, dude, you got a 5-on-4 with the talent you do. Like, go get a good basket, go get a foul somewhere, put pressure on the defense. And I think they were kind of playing not to make mistakes more than like attacking IU on offense. Even though I thought Hunter did a pretty decent job trying to attack in the post. But I feel like, it's that tension. They haven't quite been there with a lead or like a really like a one possession game. So it's a little different experience.
Yeah, again, that's one of those times where, especially when you have those advantages in transition, you want to trust your athleticism, your talent, the skill, the IQ that you have on that team to, make plays while you have some kind of an advantage. Because look, the reality is college basketball, NBA, it's hard to score in the half court. It's hard to score in the half court when the game is slow and the defense is loaded up and everyone has an opportunity to kind of sniff out what you're doing. But that's what makes the best teams good is they're able to capitalize when there is those situations when someone falls on a layup and, there's a semi-transition opportunity where you have a one-man advantage. Now you use your ball movement and IQ to get the look you want and not necessarily slow it down. And again, in comparison, it was tough because the game before against Nebraska, I feel like they shot the ball great and the offense flowed. They trusted their ball movement. Everyone was scoring. Everyone was touching the ball. So you would have liked to see a little more carryover to this IU game because obviously Nebraska is, not at the top of the Big Ten, not as good a competition as IU is. So you would like to see some carryover against a tougher opponent. But again, that highlights Michigan's struggle this year is anytime they've played those upper echelon teams, they haven't had that same carryover or they haven't been able to do it for 40 minutes, which has been their issue from my eyes.
Dude, you learned a big lesson in that yourself. You were a poster child for that. Like, you were aggressive at the end of games like you were at the beginning. I'll never forget the shot you hit against Wisconsin at Wisconsin. You did a pullback from between the legs from behind for a three. And like most kids would have shit themselves to try and make that move in general. And you're like, nah, that's me. Like, I'm going to stay aggressive like the whole game. And it wasn't like the biggest shot of the game at the end. That's a huge lesson, right? Like, especially for guys like Doug and Kobe. I'm going to get to the final player in a second because it has to do with Kobe. But you got to put pressure on teams. As soon as dude, I loved playing in the Big Ten. It was so easy in the last 2 minutes because you knew exactly what was going to happen. Everyone was going to play slow. And you were at least going to be in front of everyone. You were going to have to hit a shot over somebody because that was the MO. It was like, all right, we're going to slow it down. I think it's dumb. Like, just go be aggressive and play your game. Go get baskets. Don't turn the ball over, sure. But like, I don't know. There shouldn't be, I know sphincters get tight at the end, but I think it's a good lesson for a guy like Doug, a guy like Kobe, and even like Jet. I think Jet, there was one play I want to get to that he wasn't aggressive on. He shot that fadeaway that he didn't even hit rim on. But the final play, I tweeted out, I was like, Kobe Buffkin jumper for the win, like mid-range jumper, count it. And you could see their execution. This was I know people are going to be complaining, like, how many times can we give these guys opportunities to learn lessons? But this is like the first time they've had a real possession like this at the end to win in a big game. And they executed way too quickly. Like, Kobe was 30 feet from the basket, 25 plus feet from the basket. Hunter did not set a great screen because it was a little rushed. And then the roll replace, Jet was like, it wasn't clean even after timeout because of jitters, and they haven't been there yet. But, Hunter could have set a better screen, but Kobe, I was like, okay, he brought the ball down. He went down kind of left lane line from the top of the key. And I thought for sure he's spinning back to the middle and he's going to shoot a little fadeaway like he does with his left hand.
Right.
And just kind of get into that guy and shoot a fadeaway. Like, that's cash. He didn't. He didn't even look at the basket. He got into the paint and he just kind of dribbled to the left block and then turned and his back was to the basket and he was looking out to pass. And I was like, that's not Kobe. Like that Kobe in the first half who had, 12, 14 in the first
14
half?
In the first half.
Yeah. Like, that's not Kobe. Like, that's not Kobe's skill level. That's not his talent. He'll learn that lesson. Like, all right, just go take that shot, dude. I know it was for maybe drawn up for Jet to roll replace, but
doesn't matter.
Go take it. Go be aggressive.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's you have to be a basketball player at the end of the day. And if you're open, all plays are the only reason you have sets or plays is to, create some sort of an advantage so someone can get an open look. But if you have an open look before the designated guy is supposed to come off of a screen or, catch a shoot, whatever it is, you need to have some sense of, I'm a basketball player and I'm going to shoot when I have my opportunities. And even so, there was another play in the last 5 minutes where I think Hunter kicked out to Kobe and he was open for a three and he passed it up and then ended up like over dribbling and then took like a tougher shot.
Yep.
And I'm just like, dude, you had 14 in the first half and he was 2 for 2 from three. Like, there needs to be that carryover of just confidence and, just that belief in yourself to be like, it doesn't matter the time of game, who we're playing against. When I'm open, I'm going to shoot it. And, it's funny. It's funny you brought up that Wisconsin game because for me, when I hit that setback, because that was one of the moments for me. The previous play before that, Coach Beeline ran a play for me, and I was like in the middle of shooting a shot, and I like last second for whatever reason got scared, and instead of shooting it, I passed it and almost turned it over. We somehow saved the ball, and when we saved the ball, we called timeout. Coach Beeline called timeout again immediately, and when we came back to the huddle, Coach Beeline was like, "Let me know if you don't, if you're scared of the moment, like if you don't want the ball, let me know. I'll run the play for someone else."
Yeah.
And then I was like, that was the one I needed where I was like, okay, give me the ball again. I got it now. So when I came back out there the next time, I was like, I don't care what defense is thrown at me. I don't care what I have to do. I'm shooting it because I know he wants me to shoot it. And it gave me that sense of calmness and just, confidence in myself where I'm like, all right, it's going up. And it ended up working out in that moment. But I feel like a lot of these guys on this team are still waiting for that moment for themselves to, get to that level where they really believe in themselves and their confidence doesn't waver. Because, yeah, it's frustrating to see guys as talented as Kobe pass up those opportunities where they are they're more than able to make those big plays. They just need to believe in themselves.
It's it'll be a pivotal moment for Kobe going forward, big time, because,
right.
And especially with the fact that I hope the coaches pull him aside and point it out, or at least he has enough self-belief to look at that play again and say, I should have been more aggressive here. I had the opportunity to come back and shoot it. But I know you have Jet Howard, who's probably a lottery pick, and you got Hunter Dickinson, All-American, and you're the other guy. Like the other guy, right? Like it's easy to be like, well, I'm the third guy. Like the other guy should. No, dude, you're talented as hell. Like go be you. You were the best player in the game in the first half. Like you make the game look easy. Like don't stunt yourself for others. And Jet wasn't even having like a good shooting game.
No.
And so like I understand the mentality. Like when you're drawing up a play, and you want to execute it, and you want to execute it so bad that you under execute the entire thing. And to your point, every play that you make, it's predicated on faking somebody out, like because that's a viable option, right? You're like, I'm going to go left because that's a viable option. I'm going to fake and go back right. Like if they don't believe that you're going to go left, you'll never get back right. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's a good lesson for Kobe. Like that has to be maintained throughout the entire game. And I think second half, I was hoping that he would have done more, like taking the ball more. There's nobody else that gets in the paint better than him. Mm-hmm. I think, off of tough situations, off of like not just like drop coverage. That's not how he's getting in the paint. He's getting out the paint off drives, one-on-one plays. And I think that he's due more responsibility inside his own head. Like he is just as responsible for this team as Hunter and Jet. And I don't know if he quite believes that yet. Or if he does, and if it was just like, hey, we were trying to run this play for Jet, but he'll get there. But damn, dude, that first half, he's been like the last like 4 games, he's been averaging like what, 12, 14 points in the first half and three assists, 4 rebounds, something crazy. Like he's just going off, and that confidence will help him carry it through for the rest of the game, but he'll figure that out.
Yeah. It's just frustrating because it was one of the times where they really needed him.
Yeah,
they really needed him to come through. And like you said, on a night where Jet wasn't necessarily shooting great, and Hunter had a decent game, but again, not his best performance. In those scenarios, they do need the rest of the team to step up. And obviously Kobe's been that kind of solid third option all year where he's been able to come in and make a difference. But also, I one of the things that stood out to me in this game was it was the first game in a while that Joey, wasn't really able to get himself going.
Yeah.
And over that 3-game win streak previously, I feel like that has been one of the catalysts is coming off the bench. He's been playing with so much confidence and being aggressive out there. And you can see and feel a difference in the team when he's playing like that. And that's another one I think they missed. They missed that against IU, is just having a little extra spark off the bench with his shooting. So I think he was 1 for 1 from 2, but 0 for 2 on threes. So
Yeah.
again, but it's one of those things where, Joey is going to play better when other guys are getting him open looks and creating off the bounce. And I think Michigan had 8 assists and 11 turnovers. So that kind of stands out to me as that's not going to be a game where Joey's thriving because the ball is probably not moving as well as it needs to be. Whereas the Nebraska game, I felt like the ball movement was great. The scoring was balanced all around.
Yeah.
That kind of stood out to me, just the contrast of play in those two games.
Yeah. I'll give IU credit. I thought they played good defense. They played tough. They're in the lanes, putting pressure and help side and on the ball. The assist numbers kind of tell me that you're either not posting up Hunter enough or you're not taking advantage of it when you're getting post ups and getting the rotations. I don't think they moved. They didn't move very much.
No.
When Hunter was posting up, I think they were pretty stagnant. I think there's a couple times Hunter should have just buried Trace. Trace is a great shot blocker, but it's all help side. Mm-hmm. And he's not blocking Hunter's shot. It's not happening in the post one-on-one. It wasn't going to happen. And I thought Hunter could have maybe taken his time even more and really buried Trace. Instead, he kind of would stop his dribble at about 7-8 feet, fully capable shot for him to hit. But then it gave more space for like Renew to help down from the top of the key. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just don't think they took advantage of Hunter's post-ups enough and really attacked Trace. I was really hoping for that matchup. Like, you got to put pressure on their best player. Put the pressure on them defensively. That's what teams do to Hunter, right? They put him in ball screen after ball screen. And that was a key. I haven't seen IU run this many ball screens. I mean, let's put it this way. I watched the game against Michigan State. They don't. They just didn't run that many ball screens. And I think Coach Shafino was a little hurt that game. But they ran a lot. They tried to put pressure on Hunter, and it worked. And I think you got to flip the script on Trace Jackson Davis the same way. And there's no better player, I mean, besides like Zach Edey, but they doubled Edey the entire time when they played Purdue. Mm-hmm. They weren't really doubling that hard against Michigan too much. So I thought it was a perfect recipe to really attack TJD. And I don't know. It's hard to say exactly where everything was. I mean, Jet was 5 for 14 and Doug was 1 for 8. And I couldn't even tell you like where it was really bad. I mean, if I could watch the game over again, I could probably point everything out. But maybe a couple Doug shots that weren't like awesome from 3. But I mean, it wasn't a glaring thing offensively, I think, like it was in the past. So, like 4 or 5 weeks ago. So it's hard to really say without going through the fine tooth comb and like marking down every little thing.
Yeah. I think that's why it comes down to those last 5 minutes. Other than that, I feel like they played an overall solid game against a good team, offensively and defensively. It wasn't their best, on either end of the floor, but it was good enough that game to beat a good team. But it was just closing it out where, the offense struggled. You don't score the last 5 minutes of the game. It's in a close game. You're probably going to lose. So, and again, you would have loved to see a little bit better execution on the very last play when you need a bucket more than ever. But again, it's a opportunity to grow for this team. I don't know if you're going to grow for this year or for next year, or it's a tricky situation they're in right now because you definitely it's almost like you have to win every game to kind of close this out. But this one hurts. This one hurts a little bit.
Yeah. Amir pointed out this is a 5th game this year, losing by 4 or less. And this was like the one game that I thought they had it. Like they were actually in control and in contention. The other games weren't quite this close. But I do want to make a point. And I thought this was huge. We do talk about the last 5 minutes, but Hunter with 2 fouls in the first half was pretty ugly. I think it was tough for him to play with 2 fouls. They tried once again to employ the tactic. Okay, Hunter's got 2 fouls. He's guarding the post. Let's trap from the baseline. And they like messed it up twice. One time Jet overhelped at like 18 feet and Miller Kopp got it through on the other side. The other time Jet didn't go over at all, and Hunter assumed a double team, and Trace got a wide open dunk. So adjusting to that, I think was really tough. I mean, there was a stretch there at the end of the second half where Indiana kind of found some footing offensively. I think that was a stretch. I think Amir said that Shafino and TJD scored 19 straight for IU. I feel like that was like the stretch that they did. Well, I guess besides that Miller cop shot, but the whole game was those guys scoring in stretches. So that was a tough thing. Again, when this team gets in foul trouble, it's tough to play like that. And I don't blame Juwan for playing Hunter at all with 2 fouls. I think I would have done the exact same thing. I maybe would have played like a little different defensively. I think Hunter can still play strong, and straight up against Trace Jackson Davis 1-on-1. But I think that was I think that the end of that second half was huge. I feel like Michigan could have been up like 15 in that first half. They were just rolling that hard, and then it brought it back. I think it was like within 3 or something. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely a skill as a player to be able to play the right way, still play somewhat aggressively while you're in foul trouble, because it's such a fine line of, you don't want to completely change the way with your physicality, the way you're moving your body, the way you're using your body. You don't want to change it drastically and give the offense a advantage, but at the same time, you don't want. I mean, you have to be careful. And every coach is different with the way they do it. Like Coach Beeline was, you have 2 fouls in the first half. I don't care what the situation is. You're coming out. Like national championship game against Louisville, Trey had 2 fouls early in the game. And well, thank God, because the legend of Spike was born that day.
It never would have happened.
It would have never happened. But he really sat Trey Burke, National Player of the Year, the entire first half because he had 2 fouls. Like, he just stuck to his guns. So,
he would have been roasted for it if Spike didn't do what he did.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, I feel like had Spike not gone off the way he did, Coach Beeline would have maybe thrown Trey back into the game at the end of the first half, maybe like the last 5 minutes. But because Spike had it going, it was almost an easy decision for Coach B. He was kind of like, all right, we're just going to keep rolling with Spike since he's got 17 and just cooking everyone. But yeah, it's definitely, it's a skill to be able to, and you have to have the coach's trust. Like the coach has to trust that specific player to go out there and be able to play while being in foul trouble.
We need like an iPad this weekend when we're in Ann Arbor with everybody, and it just has Spike highlights from the game, and like randomly we just like put it above his head when we're out. I feel like that would be like a good move going. I feel like people really appreciate it.
I love that.
All right, let's get into Michigan's future looks, future opponents. Let's get into the scouting report. So the game everyone wants to talk about, the game you and me are going to, first game I've ever been to at Chrysler Center. Still don't like saying that. I'd rather say Chrysler Arena. That's neither here nor there. But Michigan State at Michigan on Saturday. It should be loud. It should be a lot of fun. Another opportunity to get a quad one win. I think they got a real shot here to like control the game again. I don't think Michigan State looks super great. I think they knew they threw the game away at Michigan State. They just didn't play up to their potential. I'm really feeling good. I'm going to keep feeling good to the season's over, but I'm really feeling good about this. Everyone's in the house. We're honoring the 2013 championship team. Runner-up. Sorry, Nick. But I think it'll be a Michigan win, just like gut feeling before we talk about anything specific.
No, I agree. And I think they played well at Michigan. They played okay at Michigan State.
Yeah.
It was a close game, and Michigan didn't shoot it great. And it could be hard to play at Breslin. I get that. And sometimes making shots in those kinds of environments are tough.
Yeah.
But this is one of those games, you got the home crowd. It'll be loud in there. A lot of alumni like ourselves will be there supporting the team. So I'm definitely positive and hopeful for them to come out and play well and represent. And again, it's just one of those things where when you're playing Michigan State, it's more than just the X's and O's and locking into a game plan. It's more of a pride thing. And an atmosphere and adrenaline, kind of situation, at least for me in those games. Yeah. My most memorable games in college were against Michigan State, especially the home games where, the entire place is bouncing on their feet and, going crazy. And you just feel that energy and you play off of it. And so I hope that that's what these guys do on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be my first time there in like 8 years or something like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think matchup wise, I think they match up really well. Again, it'll be interesting to see how Hogarden and Walker play like on ball screens. They have not been super impressive this year. Just using the ball screen, scoring. AJ Hogarden. That's a beer. Hogard. Yeah, 6 points, 8 points, 8 points. That's 3 of the last 4. Mm-hmm. He's getting assists. It's going to be interesting how they play ball screen defense on their guards. Again, it's going to be a similar situation. I foresee Michigan State attacking Hunter in the pick and roll, and then trying to just pull him out, maybe get some fouls on him. But I think Hunter has just a massive advantage down low against Sissoko, just on both sides of the ball. Like nobody's going to really make him work inside. It's just going to be on that pick and roll defense. I don't think Sissoko is like a fantastic roller. So it sets up well for whatever, Michigan's disadvantages are on defense. I think it's kind of a good team to play against, as long as they can make the guards for Michigan State shoot. They're not making all their jumpers like Hood-Schifino was. But there's a couple of keys here and there. I just think that Michigan, it's so funny watching all these games. And even with like Purdue, you're like, yeah, across the board, I think talent-wise, I would put their talent up against anybody else in the Big Ten.
For sure.
I know Edey trumps a lot of things, but top to bottom, 1 through 5 in that starting group, there's really not too many more talented teams in Michigan. I truly believe that. Am I crazy?
No, not at all. 2 weeks ago, I think I said it individually. They have all the right pieces. It just hasn't always fit together. And that's been the frustrating part about it is they really do have good, talented individual pieces. I mean, look at Jet. Like Jet's the highest projected pick out of anyone in the Big Ten, and for this year's draft. And coming into this year, we didn't even know if he was going to be one of Michigan's best players. We knew he had potential, but we didn't know. So they've even had surprises like that where they coming into the season, they weren't even expecting Jet to play the way he is. And that was almost just a bonus. So yeah, I agree with you. I think this team has everything they need to be successful. It just hasn't always worked out for them. Point I do want to make that I saw in the last couple of games actually, and I'll give them credit for seeing guys like Doug. We talked about their ball screen defense all year. Guys like Doug and Kobe really making the effort to get into the ball, pressure ball handlers. And I've noticed a difference in that, which definitely means, Juwan and that staff are showing them the clips. They're going over those things with them in practice, which is definitely what we've been saying the last month, what they needed to be doing. And guys have been taking note and improving, which is why we have been positive. We've been seeing these little improvements. So would love to see that continue to close out this year, because that's going to be a huge part of their success defensively, is just having those guys get into the ball and make the ball handlers a little uncomfortable, just so they're not coming off of ball screens with no pressure and able to make plays freely. So that's something that I've liked as of late, that I would love to see them continue. And then X factor for the Michigan State game, I just love when Joey Baker's playing aggressively and playing well. And in those kind of environments, there's nothing that breaks a back more than just a transition corner 3, or teams on a 6-0 run, backs against the ropes, and then bam, someone bangs a 3 and the crowd erupts. Those are, in these kind of games, those are the plays that make a huge difference. And other than the IU game, Joey has been on quite a roll in terms of his 3-point shooting. So that's my X factor for the Michigan State game.
I think on the flip side of that, I think he matches up really well with Joey Hauser.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he can run Joey Hauser ragged by making him chase him everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Hunter just setting screen after screen on Joey Hauser. Joey's not like a rock out there, but he's not the most athletically gifted person on the court. I think you got to make him work. He had 22 against Ohio State. Like, he can be a huge difference maker. This dude is he's very confident. He makes like the game look easy when his offense is on. It's really impressive to watch, honestly. He's just like, he kind of looks like he's going in slow motion, but like nothing bothers him. So I think if you can, again, just like with TJD, like attack their best guys offensively, and especially at the weak point, like you got to start utilizing Joey, and they were before, but I think he is just another great kind of a offensive relief, right, for Jet and Kobe and Doug to not have to shoulder all their perimeter duties offensively. But yeah, I think that's a good X factor there. Mine is going to be Kobe once again. I mean, I think the Doug matchup with Walker is big, and I foresee Doug playing better this time around, and especially compared to the game against IU. I think he's going to come out and play solid, and I want him to stay aggressive using the ball screens. I think IU plays a little better defense than Michigan State in terms of like clogging the paint for somebody like that, but it's going to be him and Kobe taking advantage of it. And I think Kobe's matchup, my other key factor for that IU game was Kobe versus Hood-Schifino. And Kobe won it for the first 20 minutes. And then, Jalen Hood-Schifino won it for like the entire game. He just had a really good game. And I think there's going to be another one for him and Hogard matched up against each other. I don't know if Kobe will be on Walker, maybe a little bit here and there. I bet they would switch some more, but Hogard's a bigger guard. I think he really needs to win that matchup and take it to Hogard offensively, like make Hogard play defense. Same thing. I don't think Hogard's a great defender. I think Kobe needs to stay aggressive the entire game. So those are another one of my X factors. I think Kobe and Joey will be really important. They're really important every game, but I really want to see them win their matchups there. But overall, I think, at home, Michigan State, they're kind of hungry to beat this team after what happened at Michigan State. I think they're going to come out pretty aggressive. I think there's still a light at the end of the tunnel there. They haven't given up on anything. And I think they're, you've been in it, right? You're like, I don't care where you're at, what your record is. Go beat the hell out of Michigan State. For me, it was always Michigan State more than Ohio State. It was always a bigger rival. Yeah. It was always go beat the hell out of Michigan State. I don't care. Even our sophomore year, didn't make the tournament. We were doo-doo, had a losing record, and we still almost beat Michigan State at home. We should have beat them. Go look it up. Petey got fouled. I threw him an oop. His jersey got grabbed. They even highlighted on ESPN. It should have been 2 free throws. Petey would have hit both of them to go up 1. It was ridiculous. But if we would have won that game, I'd have been happy that year. I'd been like, yeah, all right, we still did something. So I'm curious. I want to ask you about that. Like, one of your biggest Michigan State games, was it the kissing of the crowd? But also, when did you like get comfortable in the rivalry? Like, all right, this is my time, and like now I can balance hooping and having that and that laser focus, right? Because you always get in these big games and you're like focus on the game plan. You kind of forget your talent. You kind of constrain yourself a little bit. Was that Michigan State game where you blew kisses of the crowd? Was that the moment like that things changed for you in that rivalry?
Yeah, that was right around the time because the game before that we played against Wisconsin where I hit that step back, I think, and it was just. That was just right around the time where I started just getting very comfortable. Again, like Coach Beeline and I had these conversations and he was really wanting me to take that step forward and be the guy to make plays down the stretch. And I think after that Wisconsin game, it really started to click for me. And I was always, a little bit cocky and, playing into the crowd a little bit. But once I kind of got over that next hump where I was never second guessing, always just looking to be aggressive. The game became really not easy, but the game just became, a lot more fun and relaxed for me, where I could just be myself and not second guess whether I need to shoot this or pass this. I'm just going to go play and do whatever I feel and trust that my work and all my knowledge of the game is going to come through at the end. And so, yeah, that game against Michigan State, though, was a big one because Saturday night at Breslin, place was rocking. Like it's a tough environment, and vice versa. Like I'm sure for State, when they come to Chrysler and that place is rocking, they're like, damn, that's a tough place to win a game, because it is. So, but yeah, if you're Michigan moving forward, you got to take advantage of having that home court in these rivalry games, and you can't get swept by your rival in 1 year. It's like a rule. Yeah. I don't know if it's an unwritten rule. You just can't get swept by one team, especially when it's your rival. So I'm hoping for good things from them on Saturday. It's gonna be fun, man. Hopefully we have a couple of drinks before the game. Hopefully
can we drink at the games though?
I don't know. I have no idea.
We got to look.
If we're not allowed to drink at the game, if they don't serve alcohol at the game, then we will definitely be arranging a pregame situation somewhere on the campus of Ann Arbor.
Oh, without a doubt. Or I got a big jacket, and fireball shooters can easily fit in all of them in my pocket. So like, it's not really going to be a problem for me.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. You don't lose twice to your rival. I'm trying to look up point guard. Nah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I'll never forget, we won, I think it was 3 games in a row against Michigan State at one point. And it was like, oh, that was when like I knew that the rivalry, that we had arrived in the rivalry again. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long it had been. They were just dominating. I mean, they had that dominant run in the 2000s, right? The 3 Final Fours in 4 years, or whatever it was. Just insane stuff. But yeah, you want to keep that. You want to keep that competitive, and it's a big thing for recruiting. And before we get out of here, I got a big point on that. So let's go ahead and get into Word on Campus. So we're on campus this week. Hunter went on the podcast. Was it Wolverine Chronicle or Wolverine Insider? It was Sam Webb's and Tim McCormick's podcast. And they asked him about the NIL. And Tim asked him, like, it's probably the reason you're here right now. You came back for your junior year. It's played a big part. How has it changed? Blah, blah, blah. And, pretty typical answers. The one answer I found very interesting was how it's changed the transfer portal and recruiting. Coaches are kind of doing double duty now. It's like you got to keep your guys happy, and also like it's changing all the time. So like the recruits that you are getting in high school, there's new deals coming all over. So like it makes sense to keep your recruitment open longer than you ever have before, because you don't know what deals are going to start coming in. So it's kind of changed the game there. I'm curious with you. First, I want to ask you your thoughts on that. Second, I want to ask you your thoughts on that. But first, did you ever have anybody, you don't have to name names, but reach out to you about transferring or any colleges, one, after you committed to Michigan, and two, which is a no-no ethics-wise in basketball. It's different in football. And then two, when you're at Michigan, after your freshman year, anybody kind of trying to nudge you to come to their school?
So when I was at Michigan, no one ever reached out to me about transferring, and I would never even consider. Like I was so happy there. I will say though, even before all the NIL stuff, because I committed to Michigan my junior year,
and you blew up.
Well, it's crazy. I actually asked, I can't believe I did this. I asked Coach Beeline, I gave him my word. I was like, I'm coming to Michigan, but I was like, can we just keep that between me and you? And then I keep my status open, because at that point I was kind of unknown. And it was one of those things I was like, I want to get the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys
to give me a high school kid thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted that love just so I could get a little bit of recognition, because the Michigan scholarship didn't hold as much weight back then yet. Obviously it's Michigan. It was great. But just at that time, you guys were just starting to turn the program around.
Shit, we weren't good that year when you were.
But again, it wasn't that sexy name like Michigan may be right now. And so I remember I asked Coach Beeline, I'm like, hey, you have my word. I promise I'm coming to Michigan, but let's just keep that between us. I'll keep my recruitment open. Maybe I'll get ranked higher, this and that. And he was like, Nick, I need your answer now. Like, you're either signing this thing or
Get the hell
not.
out of here. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll sign it. I'm coming to Michigan. But I was like, I had to try. But yeah, I mean, that was the extent of me ever like wavering from Michigan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the landscape it's so different now with the NILs. And man, I really wish we could have, I mean, I'm not complaining. Like we played professionally, we've made money playing basketball, but it would have been nice to have a couple extra dollars in our pocket when we were on campus, because
it's life-changing money.
Yeah. For a lot of these guys, it is huge money that they may never even make for the rest of their lives doing anything else. Like these are large sums of money that players are making, who may never even play professional basketball afterwards, it's crazy. But that's the landscape now, and I don't disagree with it. I think it is fair, and players should be allowed to make some money and support themselves. It definitely complicates things, because now money always talks in anything in life, and in any kind of business. It's unavoidable. Money will always drive people to do certain things. And even more so now with this being an option, you start thinking the schools that are going to have the most success recruiting and getting transfers are the schools that can provide guys with the best opportunities to make money. Yeah. And not necessarily the best opportunity to, for their career or or fit for their basketball or personality or family or school. It's not going to be that focus anymore. It's going to be what matches up with what's going to make me the most money. And I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good and bad thing. I'm happy for everyone. They're making money, but at the same time, I'm sitting here and I'm saying this, and I'm like, is it a good thing? I don't. What do you like? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is those are good points for sure, and it's going to change everything. But if I would have gone to school to further my basketball ambitions, which were professional basketball, I shouldn't have gone to Michigan. I should have gone somewhere smaller where I could have really worked on my offensive game, had more freedom, shoot 15 times a game, wherever it was. So I could definitely see, myself being like, or a kid's being like, yeah, all right, give me that. You guys make $50K baseline. Like, yeah, I'll do that. And that kid should be going to Davidson instead and work on his game and work on his dreams and have a flourishing overseas career. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously those get very specific, but yeah, that does make a big difference. So it's going to be interesting to see the talent pool, because there's so much turnover. And if you can start kind of attracting kids with these deals, how it's going to change the talent pool. But is it going to aggregate the talent pool even more? Because, a Wake Forest even is not super great, but they can offer a kid $20,000 baseline versus going to like Charlotte and building up that mid-major program. And like, if he goes there, they make the tournament one year and they're a Cinderella story, blah, 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 all this, whatever, all these like crazy scenarios. But like stuff like that, where like you're going to get more kids to go to bigger schools now with this money. But then they're going to learn real quick, I should have gone to a smaller school. I'm going to leave. And that's why the transfer portal is open. I think if you can do it right, I think Michigan, we're kind of a little tainted because we've had so many different point guards and then got really jaded by Frankie Collins leaving last year when that was really unexpected. I don't foresee that being quite the norm. I just, at least for the foreseeable future, we'll see what happens with like really big money. If like some big program can just blast it on air that like, we'll pay you $1 million. But I don't know. We'll see how that landscape changes. It's just, I think Juwan is fit for this kind of maneuverability in the market.
No doubt. I would say this. I love Coach Beilein. Coach Beilein would not be suited for this kind of situation in terms of, convincing players that it's the right move for them financially because he can provide NIL deals. I think Juwan is definitely better fitted for this landscape in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's just coaching those guys. And I think you'll probably, this is where it gets a little tricky. I would hope that they could open up maybe one or two more scholarship spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering about that. Although that gets a little tricky for the mid majors because you got all these guys you want to build up as freshmen, but I mean, how useful would it be to have one more veteran guy on the wing spot, right? Like another veteran, kind of like, oh my God, his name is escaping me a couple of years ago, but just like these veteran pieces that could fit in. Obviously, Jalen got hurt. That's a huge part of this. We're kind of forgetting that in this conversation, but yeah, Beeline. It's been funny picturing him in this. Would be hilarious.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
dude hated when we wore leggings. He didn't let us do it. Any arm sleeves. So it's like kids making money. Like, get out of here. I don't know. That'd have been wild. We gotta ask him. We gotta ask him this weekend. Like, hey, you know how much a hunter makes? What do you think of that? Just see him shake his head.
I played a round of golf. I played a round of golf with him this summer in Ann Arbor, and we didn't get too far into it because it was me, Spike, Blake McLymans, and Coach B. It was a foursome, and he touched on it a little bit, and he was like, "Oh man, I could never do this. It's just a mess with this NIL. But all these kids wanting money now, Yeah, he didn't go into depth, but you could tell he's not a fan of it. And again, I don't blame him. He's old school in that sense where it would be hard for him to go from 30, 40 years of coaching a certain way and recruiting a certain way to then all of a sudden opening the floodgates. It would be a huge adjustment for him. So again, I think Juwan and the program are in a good position moving forward with this kind of just starting right now. So I'm there's the pros and cons, but I feel like Michigan is big enough of a program and popular enough of a school where they will be able to provide good opportunities financially for recruits that are going to be enticing and hopefully allow them to land some big time players moving forward.
Yeah, Hunter touched on that in that segment that I watched, that Michigan's coming around and figuring out that big deal. Was it sponsorship deal or I can't remember what it is. We'll talk about it. I'll have to look it up and talk about it next pod. But it opens up, basically, Michigan has now entrusted this agency to find deals with Michigan's likeness and then bring them back to Michigan's players, because Michigan's very stingy with their trademark and their image and use it, which I don't blame them for. But, Hunter Dickinson alone is great, but also Hunter Dickinson with an M on his jersey in a commercial or something, is even more money. So Michigan has finally entrusted somebody to use their trademarks and their likeness and find some deals for people. So it's going to be interesting to see how it opens up. But I want to say before we end here, these kids they care about basketball. They're worried about the season. They're not hanging their hats on NIL deals or transferring if they don't like something. Like, these kids are bought in. I have no doubt in my mind. Anything I've heard, like, just being in that position, even if it was at my fingertips, you're still wanting to win now and you care about the basketball now. So you can say what you want about basketball, but I think inside the huddle, coaching these kids is the exact same. You don't have prima donnas out there. You hear about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant complaining all the time, but that's not most people. It's not most players. It's just not how this stuff works. And especially with teenage kids who are so impressionable, especially when you're looking up to the respectable Juwan Howard who's been through it. It's just not really the case. So I want to make sure people understand that these kids are fine. They really care and they're working hard.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I think it's important too, moving forward, that with all the NIL stuff in place, it's still important for Juwan when he's recruiting kids. Like, Coach Beeline put a lot of value in, like, kids coming from a good family, good head on their shoulders, good focus, polite, respectful. those are all things that meant a lot to Coach Beeline. And while the NIL stuff is all good, and I'm sure everyone's happy that there's these deals to be made, I think it's still important to place value on those things, because at the end of the day, those are a huge part of your program's success on the court.
Yep.
And just the overall functionality of the team. Like, you don't want a bunch of jackasses, on your team who are just going to, cause chaos and stress every day. So, I think there's, again, I don't know these guys personally, but from the outside looking in, it does seem like we have a good group of guys who are collectively on the same page and focused. So I do think that's a good thing. But that was just another thought I had on the whole NIL deal about how, there's still going to be important things outside of the deals and the money and whatnot.
Yeah, no 5-star recruit is better than a jackass 5-star recruit that's going to come in and wreck your team and kill team morale, even if you average just 25. Like that, this college basketball, you don't need a Kevin Durant to win you championships. It's just not. It's not necessary. So it'll be interesting to see that landscape and how it changes and how Jawan maneuvers it. I'm interested to talk with you end of the year when we recap some things about who we should go after in the portal, who's coming in. We'll talk more about that later in episodes. But we will be at the Michigan State game in Ann Arbor, like we said a million times now. If you're there, come up and say hi to us. Show Spike his highlights in the championship game. Hand us a fireball shooter in our coat pockets inside Chrysler. We would be more than happy to accept it. But we'll be back. We'll have an inside look. Maybe go live. Maybe do a live little bit segment.
Never know.
Can we take over the Beyond Big Ten Twitter? We'll talk to Amir and Kelsey at ET and see what happens. But yeah, we could be on the lookout for that. It'll be exciting. We'll report some way or another from there. But Nick, you got any final words or anything before we get out of here?
Man, I am looking forward to hanging out again this weekend.
I know.
It's been a while since we've actually hung out in person, so I'm excited for that. Excited to just be back on campus with all the guys. I feel like everyone has a pretty special bond, and it'll be somewhat nostalgic, just kind of being back there with everyone, and hopefully we get to meet up with some fans and interact and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate everyone always supporting us and tuning in. As always, I love you guys.
Yep.
And that's all I got.
Yep. As always, find us at Beyond the Big Ten on Twitter and Instagram. Beyond the Big Ten. 10 is 10. Find us on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube as well. Drop your questions. Anything you want to hear us talk about. Be more than happy to bring it up on the pod. Really loved it when we had questions for Spike. I thought that went really well. We'll try and make it more a part of that going forward with everything. But appreciate everybody listening. Until next time, see ya.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.